Greetings, dear friends. I am the esteemed Vitaly Portnikov. The Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, will very soon visit the Russian Federation in the coming weeks, shortly after his re-election as Prime Minister of India. This will be Modi's first significant visit to the Russian capital since the start of the major conflict, war between Russia and Ukraine. As is known, the Prime Minister of India was indeed one of the few politicians who publicly told Russian President Vladimir Putin about the inadmissibility of such a war at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Samarkand, such as. However, since then, it seems that Modi has decided that it is necessary to establish a policy of balance between the United States, Russia, and China. And this is indeed despite his significant push towards closer ties with the United States and a triumphant visit to Washington. The stability of the Indian economy and consequently the position of the head of government also significantly depends on economic relations with Russia. After all, cheap Russian oil, which is indeed very cheap not because of Vladimir Putin's good life, but due to Western sanctions, is one of the very important drivers for the Indian economy. And Narendra Modi is definitely not going to abandon this engine. India practically ignored the high-level meeting in Switzerland, which was the peace summit on resolving the situation in Ukraine. This important event was attended by several world leaders, despite the significance of the situation. Only the deputy foreign minister, who was scheduled to attend the meeting, arrived from the Indian capital. India ultimately did not indeed join the final document of the summit. And this despite the fact that both Volodymyr Zelensky and Narendra Modi were invited to the Group of 7 meeting in Italy. And Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, had no additional problems or issues joining the summit or sending a high-ranking Indian official, such as a minister or ambassador, to this important and significant meeting. However, it can be said that it is important to note that indeed India's decision not to create unnecessary problems in its relations with Russia is becoming increasingly and more clear and evident. The very fact of Modi's visit to Moscow is indeed already a significant and undeniable demonstration of support for Vladimir Putin. It is certainly possible that, in fact, the head of the Indian government also does not want to leave the Russian president alone with China. As is well known, the chairman of the People's Republic of China, Xi Jinping, officially visited the capital of the country of Russia shortly after recently being re-elected to the highest office in the position of China. And this was indeed also a clear demonstrative sign of support and priorities in Chinese foreign policy. The rapprochement between Russia and China clearly does not align with India's foreign policy interests. And therefore, the Prime Minister has to demonstrate to the Russian President in a clear and unequivocal manner that India's attitude towards the Russian Federation remains just as friendly and unwavering, despite all the significant changes in the face of the recent and ongoing diplomatic and strategic relations between New Delhi and Washington. And even Russia's war against Ukraine does not hinder Narendra Modi's long-term vision of how strong and strategic relations between Russia and India should develop, despite the ongoing conflict between the two nations. But let's not forget the very important domestic political context of this decision. The result in Narendra Modi in the parliamentary elections in India is absolutely not at all what he completely expected in any way before the process of voting. It is evident that the opposition, led by the Indian National Congress, will have a much stronger position in Parliament than it did before the elections. And the leader of the India bloc, Rahul Gandhi, is already saying that the Prime Minister has undoubtedly suffered a real moral defeat and should definitely recognize and acknowledge it. For Narendra Modi indeed, the remarkable success of the Indian National Congress, and also for sure as well as in addition to that India bloc, is a reminder that precisely at those times when relations were warmest between Moscow, and New Delhi were exactly when representatives from none other than members belonging to specifically speaking about Indian National Congress were at helm leading India. And now in Moscow, they may pay much closer attention to the Indian opposition and their policies and strategies in the near future if they do not see mutual understanding with the current head of the Indian government and their potential impact. So competition with the opposition also compels Narendra Modi, in order to maintain good relations, to visit Vladimir Putin. And for the Russian president, this is certainly a decent show of support. It indeed proves that the isolation of Russia and its president, which the West would like to see, does not lead to the desired results. That in Moscow, they can indeed welcome not only the head of China, but also the head of India. And this undoubtedly only adds to Vladimir Putin's confidence that he can furthermore continue the war in Ukraine and ignore the West. Thank you, my dear friends. Stay on this channel, subscribe to it, support and share, and good luck.